So I want to thank everyone that's showing up, have shown up, or will show up. And we'll just give a few moments. And I have Marcus here. And Marcus is a newer but a very good friend of mine, very honest individual, and he has taught me things that I'm just not good at. So, or I could improve on. And so he's helped me open the box. And so I'm really excited to have Marcus on. And he has a couple of his own shows. And I'll tell you what, Marcus converts where I'm more functional. Like you come to me, you have a deadline, I'll get that deadline done. I'll make sure what happens. I'll get your system set up. I'll get your campaign set up properly. I'll get that flow. I have that technology. Marcus has that deep down soul, that information that makes you look into yourself and saying, do I need to slow down? Is this the right approach? Is my tone right? How am I speaking to that individual in a way that makes sense to them so I can really get to the heart of what the issue is or the obstacle so they can surpass it. So thank you very much, Marcus, for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure, Troy.
Yeah, yeah, and it's late. We're in Switzerland, right? So I'm in California,
Yes,
and you're in
it's 8
Switzerland, right?
p.m. 8 p.m. CT. Yeah,
Oh, right. Well,
but you
yeah.
know it's early dark anyway, so it's
Oh,
getting
okay.
almost winter now. So
Oh my goodness, my goodness. So, so what's the weather like over there? I was curious.
it's actually pretty nice. You know, at nighttime it gets a little bit colder,
Mm-hmm.
but I have bought this amazing little heater system, which literally like heats me up as if I was inside. And as you know, I just love the outdoors, and I'm
Yeah,
in my
you're a
swinging
runner, right?
chair. Yeah, and I'm in my swinging chair where all my clients and all my friends always meet me
Oh,
because, yeah, I can't stand to be in an office confined because,
yeah.
I'm all
Let's,
about freedom.
oh my god. Speaking of offices, I'm in my temporary office. I'll be here for the month. I got some pictures. It was like a white wall, and I got all this new computer equipment. I don't know if my camera will. Sorry for the mess. There will show all the all the camera equipment. So I got three monitors
Wow.
and lights set up and all that stuff, and I'm
You
pretty happy with
certainly
it.
got some equipment.
Yeah, and so I'm pretty happy with. Oh, it's got. I should cut myself off and on. Blurred. A blurred. Okay. So I'm pretty happy with it. And I was thinking, I took all weekend to set this up. And I said, I can't really use my old equipment. And so what I'm going to do is give away all my old equipment to someone who like needs it. And
Certainly generous. Wow.
well, I mean, as long as they're within the intercontinental United States, I don't want to mail it. I'm not going to be that generous. So it's a 24-inch monitor, and it's my old MacBook, and I'll give a mouse too, and the wires to the computer. And I think I'm gonna give it away at my next event next month. So hopefully, let me see. I don't know how many people are viewing right now, but if you're interested in the event next month, Lisa, if you can, if you're there, go ahead and add the link to it. And if anyone is interested, I'll mention again. Type in the word giveaway event, and I'll get back to you, and I'll give you the link to the event. So anyone showing up on the event next month is open for that. So I really I'm thinking, there's all these people, all these entrepreneurs that are trying to make it, and they need help. I think we all need help, and I found that there's nothing wrong with asking for help and trying to
Indeed.
provide that to people, because there's a lot of people that helped me get where I'm going, and they're there when I needed them, and so I think I should be there for the audience and stuff. So
It's a
I,
beautiful philosophy, Troy, and I think that's something we'll be talking about as well tonight or today.
Yeah, tonight for you and today for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the other day we did a post, and I think we're gonna run off that a little bit. And so this post right here is 5 strategies to build deeper business relationships. And I'm gonna invite Marcus to speak on any of those, and I'll turn this thing on and off as needed. But we did a post, I think, 2 days ago that has these slides.
Mhm.
So if you're interested in these slides, go ahead and let me know. Type in the word post, and I'll go ahead and repeat myself a little bit later. And then we'll give you the link to it. And if Lisa, you're there, feel free to go ahead and give the link to that. But everyone's interested in business relationships, but this goes along with personal relationship too. I think all relationships they're not separated. Marcus, correct me if I'm wrong or disagree with me. I invite you to do that because I'm not always right. But
I happily will do that, as we always do.
thanks. So I'll just jump on frame 2.
You know what I actually would love you to do? Can you
Sure.
just switch back to your background? Yeah. And maybe just take me once off the screen and just show your background, the
I'm sorry.
tree.
Take me once off this. Oh yeah. So what
You
we're
know,
gonna do is we're just gonna show this and then move off of this, so we
right.
can have.
Actually, what I wanted to see is just the tree behind you. You know,
Oh,
the
just the
picture.
tree behind you.
Yes.
Okay.
So take me off and
Yeah.
for a
So let me
second,
do
just show the
this.
tree.
There's too many buttons here. There you go.
Yes, because there's some real truth to what you have there. And I believe this actually shows beautifully how the two of us work together, Troy. You are all about the tree. And what is very often missing, and that's what we're going to talk about today, when I bring in my experience and my wisdom, I am all about the root system, which
Hmm.
actually makes the tree what it is in the end. Because people wonder, like, I have built this amazing tree and it is not blooming and it's not prospering, and
Yeah.
I don't make the revenue I want, and then they try to basically cut all the trees and try to do all these things
Hmm.
instead of actually looking at the root system. So I just wanted to introduce that picture because I think it's very fitting. So over to
Yeah,
you.
and it's I actually picked it. I took about 30 minutes to figure out to find that photo. And it wasn't my
It's awesome,
favorite, to be honest with you.
but it's awesome. I like
but
it.
but I picked it as because it kind of represents something that would be fitting for growth and foundation.
Yep.
And so although there's lots of roots and there's a lot of growth, there's a major simplicity to that.
Mhm.
So you can't go in all directions at one time, but eventually you can move in those directions. So I
Mhm.
think the same thing along with my services. I try to keep it simple,
Mhm.
and because if you know what you're doing, you can actually accomplish those goals instead of a
Mhm.
lot of the stop and goes and things like that. So thank you
Mhm.
for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, that's why we work so well together, because we literally complement each other. You're the tree and I'm the root system, which is usually not very visible.
Hmm.
And that's why it's so fascinating actually working and conversing with you, because it's actually rather rare that people like us meet, and B are willing to work with each other, because it takes quite some willingness to understand, more
I
than
think if
actually
I
to be
was 20 years
understood.
younger, I
It's
would not be
amazing.
your friend because I was a complete
I hear
idiot.
that quite often.
I was like, "What are you talking about?" But now that I'm just smart enough to realize that there's value, not one-way street. It's a two-way street.
Yeah,
It's a two-way street because I know that I've helped you in certain areas and certain things that to provide value to you, and vice versa.
absolutely.
And so
Yeah,
I love that because
that's why I cherish the tree of yours, because there is so much richness in your tree.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah. So
And the tree without the roots and the roots without the tree is nothing.
that's
So it
true.
has to be a union. And that's
Yeah,
why I'm so happy to be finally on a show with you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. So we have 5 things, and we can deviate off of that. But this post was created specifically for this event. And we're talking about people, synergies. And the first thing is identifying your tribe. I think a lot of people in business and in having friends, sometimes you have the wrong friends. And I've learned that the hard way. A lot of times you'll have the wrong customers, or you'll try to get the customer that's not right for you. So ICP is your ideal customer prospect. And so I put 3 bullet points here. And for LinkedIn anyway, you need to clearly, identify them, understand who are those people, and why do they have a pain that you can solve. So usually on LinkedIn and Sales Navigator, I say, you know what, the people that need my help are in this category. And I'll give you an example. As a LinkedIn consultant, they're usually a lot of times they have switched their companies in the last few years, but they have a lot of experience. So if they created a company and they created a new company over the last 90 days or 2 years or something, and they're very experienced, that means they're used to moving quickly. That also means there's a big chance that there's a fire underneath their feet they need to solve. And so they may be more likely. And if they post in the last 30 days or post regularly, they're active. And so that combination for me is ideal for having a conversation, because they're more likely to have that pain that I can potentially solve. And again, if I can't solve it, my network's pretty large. So I'm getting closer to the 30,000 people on my network, but I have about a dozen people that I surround myself that are not exactly who I am, but they have ancillary services. So sometimes they'll come to me thinking they have a LinkedIn problem, but in reality, they have a messaging issue, or they have a website issue, or an email deliverability problem. And I'm familiar with all those, but that's not exactly in my wheelhouse. So I may have a partner or someone I can help them. So my job is not to sell. My job is to solve their pain, you know. And so that's the second bullet point about solving the immediate pain and the long-term pain. Um, and so the third is something more along your lines, is how do you get people to know, like, and trust you? And then you hear that all the time, right? You hear that all the time, where know, like, and trust, know, like, and trust. And it becomes kind of funny because you're tired of hearing that. But I know that my customers come from this show, they come from my posts, but they probably saw my post at least a month to 6 months prior. So the posts are designed to be small, bite-sized chunks of goodwill, things that they can convert pretty easily, they can test and trust. And the show is more about, hey, I want to know this guy. And that's usually when the decision makers take action. What's your take on building that relationship, Marcus?
So far, I definitely second everything you said. And I definitely know more people, Troy, who are so fed up by that mantra, no, like, and trust.
Mhm.
And I have actually dear friends who say it's BS because they say, look, it simply doesn't work. And surprise, surprise, for most people, it does not work.
Tell me why.
You see, the thing is, no, that's pretty easy, right? Like, yeah, that can come easy as well. But somehow the trust is something which is almost not achievable, or after 6 months cycle of posting. And I personally believe, Troy, it doesn't have to be this way.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, like, do you remember like when we got on a call the first time?
Oh yeah,
I
good, very good
believe it
call.
was
Yeah,
almost instantaneous.
yeah.
It was almost instantaneous. And that is what I'm saying. Like, if somebody understands what this know, like, and trust really means,
Mm-hmm.
and understands how trust is built and what trust actually entails,
Mm-hmm.
it's literally possible to ignite it like this.
Oh, I see. So you're
You see
saying
what
the
I'm
no
talking
like
about?
portion makes sense, but the trust is misunderstood. I would say the word misunderstood. So it
Yes.
is a no like and trust, but a lot of people don't understand
Actually,
that trust portion.
the no and like is already misunderstood.
Mm,
Because you see, what happens? Let's say I am a service provider,
mm,
and whoever listens to us, really believe me, I was one of them as well.
mm-hmm,
I believe it was about providing solutions by providing information, literally.
mm-hmm.
So what people understood
Yeah,
and
you were
started
doing the
to,
billboard situation.
yeah. So what people begin to know was my solution.
Hmm.
People began to understand and to know my concepts, right?
Yeah.
And then they began to like my concepts. They began to like my solution. But guess what? They did not trust. And who did they not trust? They didn't trust the concepts. They didn't trust the methodology. And why not? Because they didn't trust me. So guess what? They didn't trust me because they didn't really like me because they didn't really know me.
Right.
So once I decided, Troy, in March of this year,
Mm,
enough is enough. My background, I'm a business consultant
mm.
from house. And I wrote that one post, which was really tough for me to write. When I said, enough is enough, we business consultants, Teflon people, we have all the answers, we have all the solutions, we have no problems, we never suffer, we don't have emotions because we have to appear almost like the Messiah to our
Oh yeah, like the
prospective clients.
Terminator almost. I would say the Terminator.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I said, enough is enough. Because you see, I had a come to Jesus moment, really. And I asked myself, what is it that my clients are being drawn to me?
Hmm.
And guess what? What all of them said, and I made the research with past and current clients, and all
Sure.
of them said, it is what I see is what I get.
Hmm.
And the transparency and the authenticity. And
But
that's when I
you.
realized, goodness me, I have to stop, have to change, or I have to literally stop posting. I was at that point, by the way.
Oh, you had a frustration point. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I realized, goodness me, I am not different than anyone else out there. My conversations didn't lead anywhere because, I'm a little bit version in terms of using automation for first connections with someone.
Hmm.
Because, how can you build know, like, and trust if
Hmm.
you actually automate the first outreach?
Well, there's lots of ways of doing it. We probably don't have time here, but
I know you have a
there's a lot of
beautiful, beautiful
strategy. There's a lot of
methodology for that.
strategy
Yes.
involved in that, and I
Yeah.
think that if you just go ahead and reach out and automate stuff, is not a good solution because it's very two-dimensional thinking. So
Right.
you have to think along the lines of omnipresence. How am
Yeah.
I top of
I agree.
mind and those things? But to get back to what you were saying, now I understand from your perspective. I don't necessarily agree because I don't. Well, maybe I do, and I became more. How do I say it? I have very little personality, Marcus. I'm dry as toast, right? And so that is my personality. I have dry jokes. I'm very plain faced and stuff like that. But as a business consultant, I had some of the same
Hmm.
obstacles where I had to be perfect all the time.
Hmm.
And so once I became a little more honest, not honest is not the word, transparent,
Hmm.
when I became more transparent about who I was, they said, "Oh, this guy's kind of quirky, but I like him because he's a real
Mhm.
guy." And
Mhm.
that's beginning of my transformation, which is similar to
Mhm.
yours. I think
Yep.
you expedite yours quite quickly because you have certain skill sets that I don't, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so certain things I do
And vice
very quick.
versa. Yeah.
Yeah, so certain things I do very quickly, and certain things I'm not as good as someone else, of course.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that's the part. So the no like and trust for me is still true, but you have to understand what that means. There's got to be a
Yep.
litmus test. So the
Yep.
litmus test is okay, I have a business and I also want a life, right? And I want to work with people I actually like, right?
Mhm.
I used to be where I can work with you if I didn't like you. It's
That
not like
speaks
that
to
anymore.
your build the tribe, right?
Yeah, and I'm not like that anymore. If I don't like you, there's a reason for me not liking. There's a gut reason, and you might not know
Right.
what it is, but
Right.
there's a reason you don't want to work with people you just don't like, right?
Right.
It could be a million different reasons. So I'm thinking, and I'm trying to figure out what that litmus test is. It's super simple. If you and me met, like on a Zoom or whatever, and I said, "Yeah, let's go ahead and have a drink at a high-end bar." Right? Just think about that. We're post-COVID, but still, you just don't go out anyone. You don't want to get sick. You don't spend time, and we're about our business, right? Well, if I like you enough to have a drink or take you out for drink, whatever the case may be, I have to make sure that my kid is taken care of so I can take time out. I got to make sure that the place is nice. I got to make sure I'm taking care of the bill. And the most important, my time, right? And there's a couple other things in there because the other things in there, once I get to this meet and greet with you to have a drink, I may share personal information that's not public, right? Had a bad day, problem with the girl, whatever it is, problem with the business, internal stuff, or and so you could put private information out there that's a little business related, and so you're exposing yourself to that person. And if you're at that point where you can feel comfortable, then that's the trust portion. And there's different degrees of trust, but that's the most important thing. So the litmus test is if they would take you out for drinks, hypothetically. Of course, you can't do it. You're in Switzerland. I'm here. I'm not going to fly over there just for a quick drink, But in your mind, if you said, I would like to take that guy out for drinks, I can talk shop, I can talk personal or whatever, that's the trust factor. And so I think a lot of old school salespeople have that issue where they want to sell, sell, sell. And getting business is a byproduct of helping another individual. So when I go there and I talk to you, it's actually a form of therapy. Friendship is a form of therapy. And if you can get that down, you can be honest with each other. You may not do business, but that person knows someone, and you know someone, and we know a lot of people. There's always going to be a problem that someone else can solve, and the amount of energy it takes to figure out, like, do I go with this vendor, do I go with that vendor, do I meet this person? That's a lot of energy.
Mhm.
what, get rid of that energy and focus on your internal network that has this, and execute, because the biggest problem with a lot of these businesses is they either do not execute or they don't execute properly. And
Mhm.
a lot of this stuff in between is the wasted time. Anyway, that's
Mhm.
just my thoughts on it.
Mhm. It's interesting. You remember when I talked about the difference, which actually is beautiful between the two of us? You're the tree and I'm the root work.
Mm.
The real litmus test is whether I trust someone is whether I trust myself.
Hmm. You gotta
And
explain that one. Marcus.
Yeah.
Sorry, not to
You
throw a
see,
monkey wrench in there or anything.
yeah, I get that. So that's the root system.
Oh, you trust
So
yourself well
imagine,
enough to trust the other person. Okay, I think I get
yeah,
what you're saying.
that is very often an illusion,
Yeah.
literally. I would actually go to the point that at least 75% of people out there, not just on this call, but out there, do not trust themselves.
Ah, that's
Thus,
a good point.
cannot trust someone else.
Hmm.
Thus, they do not trust me. Literally. So this is why I'm saying
Hmm.
this root system is so important. Remember, I shared with you how I actually came to it because I figured that probably 95% of my clients, which are corporate leaders, entrepreneurs, and managers, they all have one thing in common. It's what the public knows as imposter syndrome, not believing I'm enough,
Mm.
being afraid that I'll be found out as a fraud.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to not trusting myself. And, what might be surprising to our audience is that the higher up in hierarchy you go, the more prevalent this system and this problem actually becomes.
Oh, yeah, because it's a
Because,
pyramid. It gets narrower at the top
and
because you
imagine
have
when you
no,
reach,
you have less samples, less
you have no
examples
feedback.
of
You have
people at
no
that level of
feedback either.
success.
That's the point. And you see, when you actually start scratching your comfort zone, that's
Hmm.
when imposter syndrome starts kicking in.
Oh,
So people who do nothing and who are no one, they do not suffer from imposter syndrome, believe me. The exact same thing, if somebody doesn't work, they mostly do not suffer from a burnout. So you
yeah.
have to do something to actually get into this imposter syndrome. But then I found out many of my clients, they actually are not feeling like an imposter, but they have an authenticity problem. And the authenticity problem literally comes down to, if I ask them, for example, in one of my first sessions, who are you?
Hmm.
Silence. They start with their name, they start with a position, and they say, okay, just continue. I have time, 2 hours. I just listen.
Hmm.
And then they realize, gosh, I actually do not know myself at all. So it is
Yeah.
an authenticity problem. So imagine if I, let's put it into LinkedIn in terms of networking, right?
Mm.
If I reach out to someone, I do not know who I am. I can pretend to know who I am, but you know what the litmus test is? The other person will tell whether I know myself because the vibes that is being received by the other person actually is the proof in the pudding in the end. Does that make sense?
It does also.
I can pretend as long as I want to.
Sure. Also, the other factor would be, are you reaching out to that person that will vibe with you? Because there's a lot of good people out there, but not everyone is good for you. And so if your
Yeah.
shotgun approach, it's not a great thing to do. You want to be very specific to people that are like-minded versus this what we're talking about, identifying your tribe. So people that you want to work with have to vibe with you. So if you're targeting people that would not necessarily vibe with you, you're kind of wasting your time, and wasting
You
everyone's time.
see, it's actually much worse than we just discussed because if we look at the typical manager on LinkedIn, they are not concerned about conversion. They are not concerned about making money. They're
Hmm.
just there, just for networking reasons, right?
Hmm.
But especially your clients, they are so concerned about converting.
Hmm.
Because what good is it if you have 30, 50, 100, 150,000 followers, but
Hmm.
you can't do anything with them, right?
Yeah, I
So
have a
that's
friend
where
that
it,
has like 3 million, and she wants me to help her. I'm thinking,
yes, that's
I'm thinking,
nuts.
your audience is not my audience. So I don't know
No, but that is
how I could.
an absolute proof of what I'm talking about. Because if these people do not trust themselves, and I can tell you, if it comes to money,
Yeah.
as some people tell me, look, I'm going to charge $100 for how much time. And I told you that at the same time, remember, before you have that trust established,
Hmm.
Even $50 is too much,
Yeah. Yeah.
because even $5 is too much, because I do not part with my hard-earned money unless I really trust somebody.
Well,
So this is what I'm
there's
saying.
also
And this is not coming from today to tomorrow. This is work, hard work.
it is very hard work. I mean, I think I work very hard to um, present trust. And one way I do it is on my post, I create a problem and solution, right?
Mhm,
Right then and there. It's not a huge solution, but it's something they could do. And if they easily implement, it will make their life better or the
mhm,
business better or whatever
mhm,
it is. And they get that and they say, oh, that makes sense. Let me do this. And
mhm,
it works. That opens up trust
mhm,
little bits. That's the $5 trust, you know,
mhm,
and then you get to the $50 or however you explained it. So
mhm.
trust starts by just giving and giving something that is helpful to other individuals. Now, the problem that a lot of people do is they make the give too complicated.
Mhm.
They're like, you got to give at 4 o'clock in the morning. You got to do this, and eat this. It's like that's a lot of work. And if you're not used to that,
Right,
you're not going to do all those steps. So get
right.
something they can digest, they can implement, they can make a change in their business or in their life. And they're saying, oh, this has reduced my pain. And
Mhm.
by doing that, you're providing trust. That's why content is very important. People don't think content is important. Extremely important, you know. And so that's what we call a pull.
Can I
So
add
you have a
something to
push
that,
and a
Troy?
pull. I'm sorry, Marcus.
Because can I add something to that?
Please.
Because I believe there is one issue which so many people suffer from. Um, what you probably don't know either. I've been on stages and I've been teaching for over 20 years. And I had a mentor at a young age who told me, Marcus, never deliver information, and that's content very often, deliver transformation.
Ah,
And what
that's
is what
that's
is
good.
what is so interesting, I'm in the joint venture club, and there I'm literally known as the guy who conducts events,
Mhm.
because I just realized there is nothing easier to gain trust by getting people into a virtual room, show and tell what you're doing by actually showing them what you can do for them by helping them on site.
On the spot. Yeah, on the spot.
And I can tell you
Mhm.
that is so transformational.
It
And
is.
sometimes people ask me, how do you do that? Like a friend of mine just said, this is the guy who can sell on stage. I do not like to sell on stage. I do not like to sell at all.
But
But what
but
I am really
maybe
great
people
at,
like to buy.
yes,
That's
but you see,
different,
I actually do
right?
not let them buy on stage. That's the
Mhm.
thing. Because I tell them, look, I want to make sure that you're really fitting for the solution I have to offer you.
Yeah.
And it actually almost comes down to, are you worthy of that transformational process? Because, I'd like to pick up on what you left off before.
Mhm.
How I choose my one to one clients, Troy, is pretty similar to what you mentioned with
Mhm.
the restaurant.
Mhm.
I literally said to my wife more than 20 years ago, and I said to her, look, if I can imagine having someone in my living room
Mhm.
sipping on a nice glass of wine in
Mhm.
front of the fireplace,
Mhm.
that's when I'm going to accept someone to work with on a one-on-one client basis.
Yes, let's talk about that. Let's flip
You
that
just brought
coin.
up the next
Oh yeah,
slide,
yeah. Well,
which
we
is very
talked about
fitting.
this providing value regardless of
Yep,
reward. That's really what it
yep.
is. But let's flip that coin of what you were mentioning. What is the outcome of picking up the wrong client?
Oh, it's
There's a lot of
disastrous.
pain involved in that. Oh my goodness. So
Boy, oh
so
boy, it
I got
brought
a
me
horror
into
story.
burnout.
Yeah,
It
I'll
brought
give
me
you an
into burnout,
example.
by the
Yeah,
way.
I had a client, and I have a certain process. I have an onboarding document. They fill out. I scan it. We have a meeting on it, and a lot of my clients, I'll redo their whole profile, or sometimes I'll just do some minor edits. It depends on what they need, right? And I was getting a weird energy. I don't even know if that's the right word, but something was off with this one individual. I'm not going to say this name. It's a while ago. I don't even remember the person's name. And I said, "What's going on with this about section?" He says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Something's not, it's very vanilla. It's not your life." Right. And I can pick up on a lot of that. And like, I can write someone's, once I know and I talk to them, I kind of, a lot of times if they're open, I know their story. If they're giving me the information I need, I can put that together. And I said, "What made you want to do what you're doing now?" He said, "Well," and he kind of spilled it a little bit. And he almost got through it through trauma, right? And we grow through trauma. I mean, to be honest, I mean, if this certain things didn't happen to me, I would not be aware of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so certain trauma is devastating, and certain trauma is actually nurturing. And so sometimes you go through devastation, then through nurturing. But he said that when my father said, "Stop asking these questions about this or whatever," because he would try to figure stuff out, and I think he was always traumatized. But he didn't want to put that in his profile, right? He could have worded it, you can word it a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I updated it, and then he updated it again back to the vanilla version.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "This doesn't even look like his writing." And so I did his profile, and we get started, and he canceled on me. And he not only canceled on me, he fought the credit card to get a refund.
Wow.
And so I learned a lesson. I learned to tighten up my agreements. I put no refunds on it right now. I learned a lesson. It was a $6,000 hit.
Mm-hmm. And he won, of course.
Well, he won because I did not have the clause in there, right?
Yeah.
And now I do. So I learned my lesson. So it was a learning $6,000 learning experience for me.
That's expensive.
And so the credit cards that take the money out of your bank, you're like, my goodness, I'm just getting started and all this other stuff. And I realized, you know what? He was afraid of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
He was afraid of being transparent, and he didn't write that. His wife did.
Oh,
I could tell that was a different person that wrote this, and it was a female. And there's a certain style of writing. You could tell this is not this person, right? And so it's actually good that he's not a client, because he would not have succeeded. But also, I learned that lesson to do that. So that was kind of a nightmare of a client. And I can imagine it could be a lot worse. What if you get sued or whatever, because they get their feelings hurt,
Yeah.
And I'll tell them, I'm very nice. I may joke around a little bit, but if someone gets really offended, they're not my type of client, because I'm a little loose sometimes, but I have to be, because that's me and my personality. I would not be me unless I was like that, And so if you're working with people that are gonna make you feel extremely comfortable, why do it? So anyway,
because we do spend a lot of time with our clients, don't we?
Oh yeah. As of late, yeah. A lot of times with the client, and a lot of times doing the client work, onboarding and that sort of thing. So this right here is the area we've been talking about. And when I say provide value regardless of reward, what I mean is, if you come to me in a meeting with a problem and I can give you the general idea for the solution, I'll just give it to you. Because where the money is in the execution. So the first step is kind of knowing what needs to happen. Now, if you're going to take it somewhere else, get it cheaper, I don't need a cheaper client. I don't need that. Yeah. But I provided value and I helped you, and I put my good energy out there, and it'll come back. And to provide some advice to someone, it doesn't take a lot of energy,
No,
especially if you already know the answer. You
it
know,
gives
so
us energy, to be honest, right?
I'm sorry.
It provides us with energy.
Well, it provides energy back.
Oh yeah.
You're giving
Oh
out,
yeah.
but it provides it back. And
Oh yeah.
so if I help someone, I see things. I see as one of three things can happen. I helped him. Like I said, I put good energy out there. He's happy. I'm happy. You know, we're all good. I spent 30 minutes in supporting that individual. Awesome. You know, I'll move on. You know, he'll never talk bad about you. That's another thing. The second thing that can happen, he goes there, he does it, he implements whatever you say or whatever, and he can't afford, say, your services.
Mhm.
But he has a network. You
Mhm.
can pull his ticket. You can
Yeah.
pull that ticket and say, okay, can you advise me as someone that could work with me?
Mhm.
You have an opportunity there, get a client, and then if he speaks good about you, it's 10 times, I don't know if 10 times, but it's worth a lot more than you talking about yourself.
Mhm.
Other people talking good about you is a lot more powerful because it's coming from someone they already trust. And the third thing is, Troy, yeah, this makes sense. I did it. I don't want to do all this other stuff. I'll just pay you to do it. And that's how you get a client, you know. So I always think that you want to come from a place of service, you know, and not
Mm.
worry so much about it.
Yeah.
But just on the cautious side, you have a limitation on your time.
Mhm.
So you don't want to have what I used to do is I used to have 50 meetings a week.
Mhm.
Don't
Yeah,
do
it's not so
that.
healthy.
Yeah, so well, because you got work too on top of that.
Yeah.
And so you
Yeah.
want to limit your time and you want to reduce the amount of noise coming in your way. So the tire kickers and things like that. And there's a number of ways of doing that. One is tighten up your booking link to have some qualifying questions. One is reaching out
Absolutely.
to target the right people. You
Yeah.
know, making sure that person has the right profile, the right need before you accept that booked meeting, and that sort of thing. And my profile tells you who I work with and how much money you need to make to work with me. And it seems mean, but it's not. It's not to waste your time or to waste my time. It's so you want to funnel that in to the individuals that are most likely to succeed.
Absolutely. And you know what I found out, especially in my business in coaching, um, there are thousands of coaches out there.
Oh,
So
Marcus, I'm
I,
so sorry. I'm so sorry to interrupt. You know,
yeah,
we've been talking so much, we haven't even reached out to audience. For the audience, what I would want you to do is if you have questions, put it in the chat. And I got Butch here. Thank you. I got another LinkedIn user said ditto. So I appreciate the chats that are happening. Um, but if you have any questions or even comments, put it in there and we'll stop and then we'll address those. So it's not really about
we are
us. It should be
just
about you
serving.
guys. So
Yeah, but
that's
we
what
are
I'm saying.
serving. We are serving. We're not serving ourselves. We are serving our
We're just
audience.
having a good conversation. That's what it is. And I got
Yeah.
I got wrapped up on that. So I just want to tell that to the audience and everything. Because usually I ask where everyone's at. So I'm from California. Marcus is in Switzerland. Oh, Butch is in Georgia. I just left Georgia. And the other LinkedIn user, I'm not sure where that person's from. But continue, Marcus. So sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah. So you see, what I figured was, I have my clear criteria with whom I work with.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people tell me, but that's not really fair, Marcus, because if somebody cannot pay your fee, I say, yeah, but that person can pay somebody else's fee
Mm-hmm.
because there are thousands of coaches out there.
Yeah, and you may
I
not be the coach
used
for
to
everyone.
take on, Troy, I used to take on everyone,
Mm,
literally everyone. And if they couldn't afford me, I gave them triple of the output.
hmm
until I realized that's a, business suicide, as we both know. And then I realized, no, I am not meant for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, and this is why I actually do pay it forward. As you know, this is really my concept by running these monthly events. Usually I run 4 events. This month I will run 3.
Mm-hmm.
But that's exactly what I'm doing, because I am giving so much away. Like, my clients come to me and say, Marcus, why the heck do you give away so much in 4 different events?
Mm-hmm.
I say, it's actually why. Because that builds trust.
Yeah, I agree. You're going pretty fast with a lot of these. I do 1 event a month, but speaking along the same lines, I have a master class, and of course you know what that is. And for
Highly
the people who
recommendable.
don't want to pay, the white glove fees, right? Let's just call it that. They may want some help, and because in order to have that continual interaction and to build their knowledge base or build the trust base, and then they can become clients, or they can run the systems themselves, or whatever they need to do. So there are alternatives to them not be able to afford you. You can have that kind of program, which is similar. It's kind of what you're doing. Mine's more on a private level, and you're opening up to that audience. But I have a criteria of 25 courses, 25 classes, and we talk about those subjects. And we have a lesson, and we have a session. And a lesson
and they're really terrific, guys.
Definitely. Thank you.
Highly recommended. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the lesson is very functional, and in an open discussion, and the session is, did you do it? Did you not do it? Did you, what's the problem? What's the obstacles? And any other consultation you need. So I don't really charge as much as a lawyer. I think they charge quite a bit, but I do charge like $2.97 an hour, right, for my consultation. But for pennies on the dollar, they have that almost 3 weeks out of the month. And so I said, that's how I'm going to give back. And that's also how I'm going to build this brand, and I'm going to build brand by providing that value. But they have to pay some. I have yours is all free, but I said they got to pay something. And it's not even the money. It's the fact that, in my mind, and how do you handle this? If you are providing very detailed information and spending a lot of time, and they're not paying for it, a lot of times people will not value it. So you need to separate those people from tire kickers. I want everything for free.
That's the difference in my case, because you see, we were talking about content. And if you actually have the transformational aspect in your content writing, you actually do those preliminary questionnaire thingies almost in every single post.
Yes,
like I can tell you, not one person so far has shown up to my events, which I would say couldn't become my client if they had the funds, or I would not want to have as my clients. So it is literally in our responsibility to provide value accordingly, which literally filters out. Like, some people tell me, look, either one loves you or one dislikes you. Earlier times it was one hates you. That's not so much the case anymore. But either one loves me or one dislikes me. And I literally do this through my
It takes
content.
a lot of energy to hate, doesn't it?
Yes, it's not worth it. I don't recommend that to anyone to hate me. It's not so good. But you see, the thing is, like, I don't like to talk so much about numbers, but I believe many of my so-called competitors, they would turn white of envy if they knew how my conversion rate is.
Oh, I know your conversion rate.
From the 4 days events to a call to become clients.
Yeah, I'm tan and I turn white. I turned white when I found out. I'm
crazy.
Like, you have a super high conversion rate but your business is a little different too. but there are aspects of that roll over on any business. So it really depends on, and a lot of it's your personality, you
But you
know.
see, there's another aspect which actually everyone can take a page of that book. A dear friend of mine, Simon, he actually put it really clearly. He said, Marcus, when you teach, you always talk about the obstacles people face.
Hmm.
You always talk about the fears. You always
Hmm.
talk about what hinders them to be successful. And especially when you run those 4 events, you are extremely transparent. So people know exactly what I stand for and they see where they are.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I
It's.
do the entire work
Hmm.
pre that call.
Hmm.
And most people have to do the discovery call, where they go in depth into the people's problems. And goodness me, try that with me
Hmm.
in 1 hour session
Hmm.
and expect me, oh, that's beautiful. Where is that?
I
Where
don't know.
did
You
that
pushed
come
the
from?
button. I think you pushed the
Oh, did
button.
you? That's so funny. I have
It's
to
okay.
find that again. That was so cool. So literally, if you actually do the job well and you run those 4 events, they're 1.5 hour sessions. So basically, let's say between 4 and 6 hours investment of mine. But then you actually see how much trust you build.
Yeah.
And it is possible to build trust with a group within 1 hour.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it
if you
has to
have
be
the right,
learned.
if you have the right audience, like what you said, you're known for that. You're gonna pick up less people, but more. How do you say it? More. You can get more sales
It's more
and build
targeted.
better relationships with fewer people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's important. You don't need a lot of numbers.
But you
So
see,
again,
that's
I
the
know people that
thing.
have millions and millions of followers, and they're having
It's
problems
crazy.
converting because they're converting.
Absolutely.
You're converting through transactional conversions, and so they're not really building relationships. So
But
I
who
think
do
where
you
you're
think
at, and
converts?
mhm,
Troy, that is the biggest problem for people. Who do you think converts? It's not your solution.
mhm,
It's not your concept. It's
mhm.
not your product. It is you.
That's true.
And that's why I'm saying if people do not understand that they first have to work at themselves
Hmm.
before they even can think about converting people,
Yeah, because they're not open to that opportunity.
no
They don't see
chance.
the opportunities
Yes, no
because
chance. And even
yeah,
if they see it, they can't do it.
if I have a problem, I see five opportunities in that problem.
Mhm,
you
mhm,
know? And so I can make a bad situation good
mhm,
or a bad situation fantastic, you
mhm,
know? It's funny, I had a post that had a problem at Waffle House.
mhm.
I got 20,000 views on that post
That's
because it was
quite
a
something.
personal story of what happened and what I did to resolve that issue, right?
Mhm,
It had
mhm,
nothing to do with business, but it had to do with personal relationships. And
mhm,
so there's always a potential opportunity, even in there's a silver lining on things that don't work out well. For example, what happened when I bumped into that person where the client didn't, and we all had some client that didn't work well, right?
mhm,
But what did I learn? Never to be burned again. That's a
mhm,
valuable lesson. And it's not being
mhm,
mean, but it's being like, where am I at? Who am I? Where my
mhm,
feet are planted firmly on the ground.
mhm,
What am I going to do for you?
mhm,
And so my commitment is, my bond.
mhm,
And now I'm just reinforcing that and saying, this is what I'm gonna do for you, and this is what you're gonna implement. And that
mhm,
relationship works really well, especially if people they want to convert, they want to build their relationships. I think the hardest part, and we're running short on time. Um,
Yeah,
so
we have
let's
to do a
let's do this,
follow-up
Marcus.
session.
I'm so sorry. This conversation go on forever, but let's touch on the other the other two slides real quick, and then
Mhm,
let's talk about your event. And I have an event
mhm,
as well, but um, this is sort of what we've been talking about. That you
yeah,
don't need a lot of volume. You need to slow down. And when I meant slow down is you're taking an hour or an event to talk to them versus trying to slam a bunch of information at one time. So you're taking your time to slow down, and slow down also means to identify who you're talking to and why you're talking
Yeah.
to that, you know,
Right.
and especially with high value prospects, that's who you're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
And your
And
conversion
especially
rates,
you actually deal with high ticket.
well, high ticket offers, but the
Yeah.
prospect's high value prospect. So
Yeah.
that's the two sides of the same coin, you know.
Yeah.
But
So if I can say something to that, the school which says get them on a call and convert them and sign them up. I can tell you, sometimes I speak 3, 4, 5 times with my clients before they become clients.
mhm,
But it's so worth it. Guess what? My clients stay with me for a couple of years.
yeah.
Goodness me, if I hear
And
my
unfortunately, they get
competitors,
to the point where they don't need you after a while.
that's the thing. They
They're
still
like,
stay with me because they say one thing, Marcus, I have this miracle, whatever it is, and I
yeah,
don't want to miss it.
yeah.
That's why I'm saying I'm a transformation designer. I just had my client Eric on a call this afternoon, and he said when he heard that I coined myself transformation designer, he said, Marcus, you just actually guaranteed 3 more years of contract because he
Give 'em a
understood
virtual
what I
high
was
five.
talking about. Yes, because he understood what I was talking about. I'm
Yeah.
literally designing my client's transformation.
It's great because you start opening up the neurons in their brain and they're able to start
Yes,
connecting the dots.
yes,
And
exactly.
when you are able to connect the dots yourself as well as helping other people connect the dots, it's a it's a euphoria almost. It's an energy to make you want to do
Absolutely.
better and to convert better.
Yes.
Once I opened that, I was getting clients left and right.
Yes. And I can tell you, I had a eureka moment on LinkedIn when I was posting because, remember, like I had some posts which literally max out the characters. And then a friend of mine actually said, guess who the friend was? It was Troy Hippolito. He said to me, Marcus, reduce the amount what you post. So
Yeah.
I asked dear friends of mine because I reduced it by half. And they actually came back and said, Marcus, finally,
Yeah.
you make people think instead of lecture.
Yeah. There
And
you
this is
go.
what I see so often on
There you
LinkedIn.
go.
How the heck can I produce trust by lecturing people?
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
chance.
No one likes being talked to.
No,
They
make
like to
them
have a
think.
conversation with, you know.
Yes, take them on a journey. Have a conversation with them
Yeah.
while you type.
Well, believe it or not, I'm still massaging some of those things, and I do a good job.
But you got
But
so much
I
better, I
also
tell you.
realize, honestly, that I don't need a ton of views because
Mhm.
that's not my tribe's not everyone.
Right.
So I tell the audience, I'm telling the audience, you guys, right now, if you're not blowing out the water every time, it's okay
Right.
because you typically need to set up where, and this is on the number side, about 500 views per vetted book meeting. So if you think about that, you know, yeah, that's not that hard. Even if you get that in two or
Mhm.
three posts or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And so if you have a formula, and the formula can be transformational in a post, they try if it can lessen their pain,
Mhm.
then do it. But the easiest thing is people can't think. Just got to know most people can't think of two, three, four things at one time. That's the lecture
Mhm.
stuff. It's too much
Mhm.
information. So
Right.
you have to present a hook. You have to present the problem. You have to put the three-step solution or whatever it is, and then the CTA at the end. And by doing that, and then maybe having the slides or whatever, you break down that concept into digestible pieces
Mhm.
where it can be applied. And so that's the real secret. As long as what you're saying is real. A lot of times people say stuff and it
Yeah.
doesn't convert because it's not real, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And make
and there's
people think. I believe that's literally what it comes down to. Make people think.
Yeah, make people think,
Yeah.
and it opens
Yeah.
up those neurons. So I'll get through this real quick. Push and pull. Well,
Mhm.
pull is an example of content, and
Mhm.
push is an example of maybe direct outreach. And so you want to use, and there's different ways of doing it. If you have a large audience, you can always create content and pull all the time. If you
Mhm.
need, cash on hand, you want to do a bit of both. I don't ever
Mhm.
believe in pushing without pulling, though. So
Mhm.
I do a push and pull method, but my
Mhm.
push is a soft push.
Same here. Yeah.
It's an introduction. So I'll get past that
Yeah.
real quick and move to the next slide, and then we'll show some stuff. And this is the last one here.
Yeah.
This is what we've been talking about the whole time,
Yes, exactly.
and we didn't use the
That's our
word
job.
reframe, but
That is our job.
yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely allow them to rethink themselves. That's what
Yeah.
reframe means.
Yeah.
Have them to rethink them, rebuild them. They say, "Oh, I'm not that person." Um, they can become that person.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think the core of people change too often, but if you change a destination by 1 degree, you're in a whole different state. Can you
Oh, yeah.
imagine traveling?
Absolutely.
So you don't have to
Absolutely.
change your whole life. You got to change
Mhm.
certain habits, certain thought process.
Mhm.
And if you are, if you're trying to get to New York from Georgia, I'm making this up,
Mhm. Mhm.
and if and and you're if you move 1 degree to the left to the right, you're in the ocean. You don't want to be in the
Mhm.
ocean, right?
Mhm.
You want to make a destination. So 1 or 2 degrees difference in your habits over time make a huge impact.
Yeah.
Um, so Marcus, we're getting
So
very close to this.
let me share something about that for one
Sure.
second. I just want to leave our audience with a nugget. The most important thing in terms of networking is be more interested than interesting.
Oh yeah, the energy comes
And
off.
99% of people try to be interesting
Hmm.
instead of interested because that's what builds trust. If I reach out and want to know who you are, what you stand for, what your problems are, and then it's so easy because you suddenly say, you know what, Marcus, who are you? What do you stand for?
Mm-hmm. Because it's a
Literally,
model. I love
it is
that.
mind
I
blowing,
love that.
mind blowing. Be more interested than interesting. And that's, by the way, a very loved term by my mentor, David Meltzer. So a shout out to him.
I've
Yeah.
heard that term before, but now I understand what it means. So I appreciate that.
It is
Thank
the
you. That's
key.
very powerful.
Yeah.
Be
Ivanko is the
more
key.
interested than
Interested
interesting.
than interesting. Yeah. And 99% try to be interesting. And imagine both parties try to be interesting.
They're trying to top each
Collision.
other up, and it's not. That's not
No
about
chance.
that. It's not a
No chance.
competition. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that further on a follow-up session in 2024.
Awesome. I have an event, and this is the event next month. If you're interested, just type in event, giveaway event or event in the chat, and I'll later on come back and fill that in. But another good guy here, David Greenberg, he is strictly sales. And during this event, I will be giving away my old computer equipment to someone who needs it. It's kind of my giveaway there. So pretty interesting. Feel free to just ask for it, and I'll give you a link for next month. Now, the other thing, uh, which is actually Marcus's CTA, which is call to action, and he has 3 events, and we'll give a ask for that, and just put down Marcus event, and we'll give you a link for that.
Mhm.
And then we'll go back to the chat later on and fill everything out. But tell us in 2 minutes about these 3 modules.
Okay. What it comes down to in the end is I've realized that it's actually taken 3 things. It's identity, which we're talking about in Unlock Your Inner Hero.
Mm-hmm.
You see, whether we like it or not, we all have barriers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of skyrocketing your career and or business and actually lead with fierce determination, it takes these shattering barriers. So at first, you have to unlock your inner hero. So that's what we're doing there. In the
Mm-hmm.
second session, it's discovering your true self. As I said, if you don't know yourself, how the heck can you know somebody else or how can somebody else get to know you if
Oh
you don't
yeah,
know
you have
yourself,
no
right?
foundation. You have no foundation.
Exactly.
No,
The root
you're walking on
system,
rubber legs.
the root system is just basically
Mm,
screwed. So it's about
mm,
igniting inspiration. It's embrace your purpose and transform your journey. And the third thing is, what comes down to is forge powerful connections.
mhm,
Because I can tell you, I would not sit here if I had not learned at a very young age to forge powerful connections.
mhm.
Because, my friends, they're so jealous of me because of that one thing. Because I
You have the
learned
wrong
how
friends.
to. Yes, no, because
They're jealous of you.
they wished they had that. It's a
Oh,
positive
jealous in a
jealousy. Get
good
me
way.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 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 yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
It's like zealous
I
because
had some
what they
jealous
say
friends
is,
and they're
"Gosh,
not my friends anymore.
I wished I had that ability." And I say, "Yeah, this is actually what I teach in those 3 sessions." So imagine it's 1 hour each. Starts next Monday on the 30th. It starts on Wednesday
Mhm.
and Friday. So, really, welcome everyone who wants to join. It will be a very intimate session before I end the year. Then at the end of the
Yeah.
year with a big bang. So,
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure having you. I'm backed up for another meeting, so I have to jump off.
same here.
But it's been really, really great. I appreciate it. It's been very
Thank you for having me.
and partially transformative to it's transformative to me. So I hope everyone feels the same. And again, feel free to drop in the chat, and we'll go ahead and reply. And then we'll see you on some of these events in the future. Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful.
Always feel free to reach out to us. And I think our booking links are on our LinkedIn profiles. So we're
All
always
right.
open.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Have a
Bye.
great time.
Bye.
Bye bye for now.